everybody. So today we are gonna make a mug hug for your coffee mug. So we're gonna do a morning one and a night one. So grab your hooks, grab your pattern off of Yarnspirations.com, and let's get started. Okay, let's get started making our good morning and good night mug hug. So here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna need yarn, of course, Red Heart Super Saver, and you're gonna need at least three colors. You're gonna need at least a light blue, a darker blue, some yellow for your sun, black for your sunglasses and face on both of your appliques, some white for your stars, and maybe a lighter yellow for your moon. And you're also going to need scissors, maybe a stitch marker, a yarn needle, and your hook sizes are going to be a 5mm for the wrap part and the sun as well. And then you're going to need a 3.5mm for your moon and stars. Once you've got all your materials together, let's get cracking. Okay, let's get started making the wrap part of the mug hug. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start just making the general wrap, which is the same on both patterns. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna follow your pattern, and it's gonna say, you're gonna start with color A, which is your main color of your mug hug wrap. So you're gonna start, I'm starting with the blue because I'm gonna make the good morning mug hug, and then I will make the extras for the good night mug hug, just so you can see how they're made. So you're gonna start off with a slip knot. And then you're going to chain 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And you should have something that looks like this. Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to put a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So the second chain isn't this first one where the loop is coming out of. It's going to be the one right after it. So you're going to put your hook in there and make one single crochet. And then you're going to put a single crochet in each chain all the way to the end. And at the end of this row, you should have 13 chains. Once you've reached the end of your row, I will meet up with you and we'll move on to row 2. Did you finish row 1? If you did, great. If not, just pause the video and catch. So what you're going to do for row 2 is you're going to chain 1, and this is for every row moving forward. So after every row, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. So chain 1 and turn it around. So you're going to be going again from right to left or left to right, depending on what side you're crocheting on. And then you're going to just single crochet straight across for row 2. Your first one's going to go right here. It's going to go in right where you came out of with that chain 1. And then again, you should have 13 single crochets all the way across. Just like that. And then take your time. This is going to be fun and exciting because you're going to make a nice wrap for your coffee cup or your teacup in the morning or even in the night if you drink that stuff at night to help you get to sleep or whatever. Now your last stitch on your second row, it's not going to look like a stitch, but it's right here. I'll show you with my needle. It's right there. Okay, kind of dips down a little bit, so it's hard to find, but it is there. So you just kind of have to wiggle it. Maybe you have to use your finger to help you get through. There you go. And that is row 2 finished. So let's start row 3 together, and then I'll turn you loose and let you finish the rest of the rows on your own. So again, chain 1, turn your work, and then just single crochet all the way back to the end. And once you finish row 3, you're going to keep going until you hit a total of 40 rows. Once you've hit 40 rows, I will meet back up with you and we will finish off the mug hug together. Okay, once you've reached row 40, and if you haven't, just pause and catch up. So what you're going to do is once you've finished row 40, you're going to chain 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then what you're going to do at the end of chain 10, you're going to make the loop right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch into row 40 where your last single crochet was. I'm just going to slip stitch down there to attach your loop. Once you've done that, fasten off, and then you can trim your yarn, pull it through, pull your loop a little tight, and there you go. You've got your buttonhole. And then you can sew in your end. That way you're sewing as you go versus waiting until the end to sew all the tails in. So you just sew it under some stitches, get it out of the way. That way when you go to finish off your project, it's not bothering you. I know it's easier for me when I do that. There we go. And as you can see, I use some stitch markers to help me count to hit row 40, and I put one every 10 rows. So that way, when I went back to count, I didn't have to count each row over and over again to remember where I was. And I'm just going to take these out because I don't need them anymore. There we go. Put those off to the side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to connect our sides together. So that way we have them connected when, that way our mug hug doesn't fall off. So what you're going to do is you're just going to cut yourself a piece of yarn, not too long, just long enough to sew your ends together. And so what you want to do is you want to take your mug hug, lay it face down, whichever side is prettiest for you. So what you want to do is take your mug hug and fold it over. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew the bottom 3 stitches. So there's one grouping here, one grouping there, and the last one here. So you're going to sew the bottom 3 stitches from about here down. That way the bottom half is closed and it fits over our handle on our coffee mug. So to attach your yarn onto your project, you're going to feed one end through your loop, and then I'm just going to attach it to a corner around where we're going to be sewing. So you want to do it opposite end of your buttonhole. So I'm just going to put it on this corner here where we started our foundation row. And then I'm going to tie it in a little knot. That way it doesn't come off. And then we can sew that little tiny tail in a little later at the end of our sewing. And then you're going to take your project, fold it together like this. And then I like to put my finger in between the pieces where I'm sewing so I can see both sides. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your yarn in through one side and come out the other side and just pull it through, and then just loop over and do the same thing. And you're going to do that on the bottom 3 stitches only. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back over it just to make sure that nothing's going to come loose on me, or it's not going to come undone. That would be annoying. There we go. And then what I can do is just snip my yarn and sew in my tails. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew them in on the inside here. Flip it inside out. And I'm going to sew it in on the inside piece, so that way we don't see it. So our project stays neat and tidy. Okay, there we go. It's a little tricky. Just take your time. There we go. Sew them in. There we go. And just kind of give it a little tug and cut the little extras. There we go. And then turn it right side out again. And there we have it. We've sewn our made our buttonhole and sewed our ends together to create our mug hug. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create the appliques to go on. We're going to do the sun and the moon and stars. That way you can pick and choose which ones you want to put on your mug hug. So let's get started making the sun. Right, let's get started making our sun. So grab your yellow color, whatever yellow you're using for Red Heart Super Saver. And what you want to do is create a slip knot. And we're going to be going around in circles. Okay. So what you want to do is chain 2, 1, 2, with your 5mm hook for the sun. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put 6 single crochets in that second chain from your hook to create a circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And now what you're going to do is you're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around, increasing to 12 at the end of this round. So your first one is right here. So you're going to put 2 into that one. So 1, 2, and then 2 in the next, 3, 4, and then you're just going to keep going. Oops, that's not it. And 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a little bit more yarn here. And then what you're going to do after that for round 3 is you're going to put 1 single crochet in the first, okay, and then 2 in the next, 1 and 2. And then if you want to make it easier, so 1, 2, and then here. To keep track of your rounds, if you want to put a stitch marker where you start your first stitch, that would be a good idea, because that way you keep track of where you finish, that way where you ended and where you're beginning. So then the next one will be 1, and then 2 in the next after that. So 1 and 2, and then 1, and then 1 and 2. And you're just going to do that all the way around, and I'll meet you up when you finish. All right. If you finish round 3, that's great. If not, just pause and catch up. So what you're going to do for round 4 is you're going to put 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And put your stitch marker in where you've put your first stitch. Okay, so you're going to go 1, 2, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets in the next one after that. So your pattern is going to be 1, 1, and then an increase. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then an increase. Okay. Grab a little bit more yarn. There we go. Okay, so there's going to be 1, 1, and then an increase. And again, you're going to go all the way around until you get back to where you started, and I will meet you up when you get there. Okay, you finished round 4, that's great. So let's work on doing round 5. So for round 5, we're going to be doing the sun's rays, or the spikes on the sun. So let's start off with a slip stitch in the next stitch. And then what you're going to do is you're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you're going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. Then you're going to half double crochet in the next stitch chain after that, and then a double crochet in the next chain after that to create a spike. and then you're going to skip 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then slip stitch into the 3rd. And there we have it. We've completed one of our sun's rays. So let's go on to the next one. So again, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Slip stitch into the 2nd chain from the hook, then half double crochet into the next chain after that, and then double crochet into the last chain after that, and then skip 2 stitches, so 1, 2, slip stitch into the 3rd. There we go. There's 2. Now you're going to go all the way around until you have 8 in total. Once you have 8 rays, we will move on to the face. Okay, I'm just about to finish my last sun's spike. So what you want to do is you want to slip stitch. You're still skipping 2 stitches, but then slip stitch right into that first slip stitch we did. Okay, and there we go. And then fasten off. Now leave yourself a bit of a tail for sewing. That way you have enough. And then what you're going to do is just pull it through. And there we have it. We have our little sun. There we go. Oh, you can always flatten it down with your hand a little bit, but we're going to be sewing it onto our project, so I'm not too worried about it staying flat for you. But let's work on the sun's sunglasses. So you're going to want to grab your black yarn, and I'll meet with you in a second. Did you grab your black yarn? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 little circles specifically for the sunglasses. So what we're going to do is we are going to make 2 circles by starting off with a chain 2. Okay. So chain 2, so 1 and 2. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put 6 single crochets in that 2nd chain from the hook. So 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then you're just going to slip stitch to the first single crochet you made. There you go. And then fasten off. Leave a little bit of a tail for sewing. Just like that. And what you want to do is you want to make 2. 1 for each side of the face. Okay? And if you want, you can cut yourself a little bit of black yarn for the smile. So not too much. You need a little bit for the smile, and then you need a little bit for in between the glasses and just on the sides. So right about there should be good. And you can put that off to the side and we'll finish it off later. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make the nose for our sun. So grab your yellow, and we're going to make a slip knot to start ourselves off. Like that. And then what we're going to do for the nose is we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 half double crochets in the 3rd chain from the hook. So half double crochet is yarn over in the 3rd chain, pull up a loop until you have 3, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just like that. And that's the finishing of our nose. So we're going to fasten off. And again, leave a little bit of a tail for sewing it onto your project. Okay. Just like that. There we go. There. And that's our nose. We're going to be folding it in half to put it onto our project, so don't worry. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to attach all of our extras like our sunglasses and our nose and make our smile on our sun. But first, let's attach the nose. So what you want to do is just feed your yarn in through your needle, grab your nose, and you're going to fold it in half. And you're going to place it in the center of your sun. So just in the center, do your best, trying to hold your project and sew it on at the same time. It is a little tricky. If you want to pin it into place, that could be a good option. But I'm going to put it right about there because we have to put our sunglasses around it as well. So I'm going to approach it from this side. Okay. So what you want to do to sew on your sun is you're just going to go and pull up some stitches. Just one stitch and feed it from your project so you're not going all the way through. Okay? So pull up a stitch, just a piece of it, and go through your project, through your nose. Okay, and then you're just going to do that all the way around your nose until it's firmly into place. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing this, and I will meet up with you when you have your nose sewn on. Okay, now let's sew on our round circles for our sunglasses. So you're going to probably put one right about there, and the other one just on the other side of the nose, kind of like this. That way you can put a little bridge that goes over the nose in between. So just like this. Okay, and once you think you've got them in the right spot, you can sew them on. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to do the same thing I did with the nose, is I'm just going to pull up, like, I'm going to try and show you here. Try and grab a stitch or two and just go from one side to the other and pull it through. So just go in and grab a stitch. And again, you're not going all the way through. You're just gonna go in at it from an angle and pulling it through. Okay, and then you're just gonna make sure you go through your little black circle at the same time, because then that will hide the way you've sewn it on. And you're just going to go all the way around. And once you've gone all the way around, you can sew in your end on the circle, and then it won't be seen. And it's going to be hidden. Okay, there we go. Then I'm just going to kind of do this. Go through one side up the other, and I'm just going to cut off my tail, and there's one little black circle sewn into place. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to sew on the, once you've sewn on the other one, then we'll make the bridge and the extensions for the ears and the smile, and then we'll be finished with the sun. All right, if you've sewn on both circles, let's move on to the bridge. So what you're going to do is you're going to feed your black yarn or your embroidery floss onto your needle. Okay, and what you're going to do is I'm just going to go at it from this side, and I'm going to go actually from behind, and I'm going to try and aim to get it right in the middle or just over the nose, and I'm going to pull it through until I got a bit of a tail on the other side, and then I'm going to go through the opposite side of the next circle and poke it all the way through and pull it through. And there we go. We have our bridge over our nose. Now I'm just going to do that one more time, maybe two, just to make sure it's really noticeable. Because you want to make sure it's seen. Okay, and there we go. We've got our bridge. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to do the little black lines on the sides for the parts that would technically go over your ears. So again, you're just going to go at it from one side of your little circles, pull it through from the back, and then you're going to go through just on the adjacent side, just across a little bit on one of your rays, just like that. And then again, you can probably do it one more time just to make sure it's noticeable. Oops. There we go. And then if you want to jump to the other side, you can do the same thing on the opposite side. Just making sure that your sunglasses are as even as you can get them. Okay, like that. There we go. And there we go. We have our sunglasses. He's looking pretty cute, if I do say so myself. Now what we can do is we can tie off our other side, because nobody's going to see this. It's going to be sewed on to our project. So we're going to just tie it off in a knot and then snip our yarn ends. And if you have enough black yarn left over, we can make his little smile. So what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of go from one side of the nose, and you're going to try and go about a finger's width-ish away from the nose. Pull your yarn through, again leaving a little bit of a tail on the other side. And then you're going to aim to go in the center, but the middle, just below the nose, in the middle, as you can get it. And then you're going to go from the other side of the nose. And then you're going to go back through that center hole. Oops, sorry. Okay, and then he's got a little smile. There we go. And then you're just going to do the same thing on the other side that we did with the sunglasses. And you're just going to tie it in a little knot so it doesn't come loose on you. And again, nobody's going to see this. It's going to be sewn on to your project. Okay, and then you're just going to snip your yarn so your tails aren't too long. And there is our little sun with our smiley face. There we go. Now let's move on to the moon and stars. So let's start with making our stars. Now you're going to want to make at least 2, and if you want to make more, you can make more. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with a slip knot, and you're going to grab your 3.5 millimeter hook. Okay, and you're going to chain 2. So 1 and 2. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put 5 single crochets in the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and what you're going to do now is you're going to slip stitch in the next single crochet. Then you're going to chain 2, so 1, 2, and then you're going to slip stitch back into that same place where you slip stitched the first time. And that's kind of making your little point on your star. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch into the next single crochet, and then chain 2, 1, 2, and then slip stitch right back in to that same stitch you slip stitch into. And you're going to do that all the way around until your star has 5 points. All right, once you've got your 5 points, you can slip stitch back in to the first slip stitch you started at. And then you can fasten off by chaining 1, snipping your yarn and leaving a bit of a tail for sewing. Oops, that didn't cut. There we go. Okay, pulling your loop all the way through, And make your stars your points on your star a little bit more pointy. You can pinch them with your nails to make them a bit more star-esque. There we go. And that's one star. So like I said, you want to make 2 or as many as you want. It's up to you. However many stars you feel like you need. But let's move on to the moon. So the moon is going to be starting with a slip knot again. Okay. Then we're going to chain 2. 1 and 2. And then you're going to put 6 single crochets in that second chain from your hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. So you're looking at the back of your first round of single crochets. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch, creating a half moon. So the first one is right here, right where you chained 1. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8. Oh, there it is. 9 and 10. Okay, and last set is right here. Just gotta make sure you grab both loops as best you can. There we go. 11 and 12. Okay, and then again you're going to chain 1 and turn your work, so you're going this way, not in a circle. So round 3 will be 1 single crochet in each stitch, so total of 12 single crochets. So that's 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, whoops, try not to do that, and 7, and 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. There we go. See, it's got kind of like a half circle here, half moon shape going on. Then you're going to chain 1, turn your work again, and then for row 4 you're going to put 3 single crochets in this first stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to go 1 single crochet and all the way and leave the last one, and we're going to put 3 single crochets in that last stitch. So we're going to single crochet all the way right up until the last one, all the way down, just like that, creating our half moon for our cozy or our mug hug. Okay, and then once you've reached the last single crochet on your moon, you can put 3 single crochets in the last single crochet of this round. 2 and 3. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn again, and then for row 5 you're going to repeat row 4. So you're going to go 3 single crochets in the first one, 1, 2, and 3, and then just do the same thing you did, single crochet all the way around to the last single crochet of the previous row, and just put 3 single crochets in the last one. I'm almost there, so we'll do that together. Okay. Oop, almost there. Okay. So then you're going to put 3 single crochets in that last stitch of the previous row. There we go. And that is our moon. So we're going to fasten off by chaining 1, snipping your yarn, and leave a bit of a tail for sewing. There we go. And that is our moon. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a face to our moon, at least on one side. So we're going to add our nice little face onto our little moon friend here. So you're going to need your yarn needle and some black yarn, and I will meet you in a second. Okay, let's add a face to our moon. So I'm just going to use some black yarn that I have handy right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do his mouth first. So what you want to do is you pick a spot where you want your smile on your moon to be. I'm going to probably put mine right about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the edge here. I'm just going to come up through the back. Leave a little tail on the other side. And then I'm going to go over this way. That way. Can dip it down a little, make it look like he's smiling. And then I'm going to go across, upwards, about 1 stitch. Then I'm going to come down across the mouth, like that. Okay, and then for the eye, you're going to try and make sure that it's just on the edge of your smile, like that. And then go over about a stitch or so, maybe half a stitch, so you can kind of create that little eyeball like this. And then you're going to want to do an eyebrow. So coming from the back, doing your best to aim. Okay, and then going over a bit. Oops, try not to pick up any of your tails though. There we go. And there is our little moon's happy face. So then what you can do is you can flip it over. And what you've been doing for the last few projects is just kind of tie it in a little knot, just so it doesn't come unloose on you. Snip your tails so they're short, but not too short. And there we have it. We have our moon and our stars for our good night and good morning mug hugs. All we have to do now is put everything together. Okay, everybody, so let's get started sewing on our appliques onto our mug hug. I'm gonna do the moon and stars. If you wanted to do your sun as on either one or both, if you've made 2 like I have, you can. But I'm gonna do the sun, the moon and stars today. So let's start with our stars, because they're smaller, so they may take just a little bit more attention to detail. So let's grab our yarn needle and let's move our one of our stars out of the way. So you're going to feed your yarn needle, feed your yarn on your needle, pick up your project, and you're going to start just by what we've been doing before, is grab a stitch and go through your project and then pull it through. And then what you want to do is try to find the point of your star and make sure you grab your point and pull it up, because then it'll look more like a star and you'll have more definition. And then you can go into the little crevice, try to get as close to underneath your applique as you can. Okay, and then again, go to the point of your star. Just pick up a stitch off of your wrap, and then pick up a stitch on your star on the point and pull it through. And then just keep going all the way around. Once you have gone all the way around and weaved in your ends, do both of your stars, or however many stars you have, and I will meet you back and we'll do the moon together. Okay, have you sewn your stars on? I have. So let's get going on our moon. So what we're gonna do is the same thing we've been doing with the stars, is you're gonna feed your yarn on your hook on your needle, hold your project. If you wanna pin it in place, again, that's fine. So what you wanna do is you wanna grab a stitch that's close to your project and then pull it through your project and then all the way through. And you just wanna repeat this all the way around, so that way it doesn't look like you sewed it on. It looks like it was placed there. And you just want to go all the way around, taking your time, making sure it's sewn on nice and snug and it's not going to wiggle around or move around on you or fall off if you're drinking your coffee or your tea, either in the morning or the evening, depending on what time of day it is for you out there. Don't forget to leave a comment down below if there's anything you'd like to see, and if there's anything you think you'd like to try and make. I can take that into consideration and make it happen. So just keep going, and I will meet you back up when you've gotten back to where you started. All right, if you finish sewing it in, this is what it should look like. You shouldn't see any of your stitches on the other side. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew on our button to keep our mug hug closed. Okay, so let's get ready to sew on our button. So that'll keep our mug hug closed. So if you have your button, make sure that your yarn needle passes all the way through and that it doesn't get stuck, because if it gets stuck, then you won't be able to sew your button on. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna feed on, I'm just using a little bit of white embroidery thread just so you can see what I'm doing. But I would try to blend the color. So use a blue or a dark blue or even maybe a black, just so it doesn't get seen. But just for today, I'm gonna use white. What you wanna do is you wanna try and pass your needle through the back and try to get it through your button and get your button just on the outside or just on the back corner of your project. You wanna pull it through like that. And if anybody's sewn on a button before, then you can just kind of skip ahead and finish up. Okay, and you're just gonna keep going. My button only has 2 holes. If yours has 4, you're just gonna do a crisscross or an X pattern on your button. And then you can also go as many different directions as you want with your button. But you want to make sure that you're sewing it on as best and as tightly as you can so it doesn't come off. Okay, let me go one more time just to make sure that she's on there good. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tie my 2 remaining tails in a knot so it really stays in place. I'm going to double knot it so it doesn't go anywhere. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim my ends, and then I'm going to sew in my ends so they're not seen, just like we've been doing from the beginning. Want to make sure our stuff is nice and neat and tidy so we can use it. Okay. And if your ends are a little frayed, you can always run it between your fingers so it gets pointy. There we go. And pull it through. And trim it again. Ouch. Try not to cut your project and try not to cut your fingers. And there we have it. Your button should fit through your buttonhole that you made. And we have our mug hug. And if you wanted to, you could make 2, one for day and one for night. It's up to you, your choice. There we go. And there we have it, everybody. We made a good morning and a good night mug hug for our coffee or tea mug. So don't forget to subscribe down below, and I will see you next week.